Okay, here we are not far into the second turn of Raphia. We saw some movement here over on the Seleucid right flank. First of all, Antiochus opens things up. He's playing with the elephants a little bit. He lost one, killed one, moved his cav, drove one of the, well, one of his royal guard chased off one of those equally good Ptolemaic cavalry. Uh-oh. Speaking of equally good Ptolemaic cavalry. Then we had the Seleucids come slamming in with some of their mercenaries here. A little bit of rallying and actions over here. I don't know what this guy's up to. What he didn't. Oh, he hit as well. Not a lot of action. Unit routed on both sides. But then the big phalanx hit. The Seleucids launched their phalanx just a couple hexes away. Slight advantage to attacking. They took it. It looked like they were getting the advantage out of it. But honestly, it's probably about a break even. They lost one of their phalanx units, which actually got a breakthrough driving this guy through. But then the wheeling maneuver into here, and that's kind of a gray area for me of the rules. The unit was crossing across here. Now, it wants to, let me pick him up and show you. This is where the attack was. He was attacking across here. He's supposed to advance like this, and I play it that he has to, and it counts as a wheel, therefore he has a chance of taking some damage from it. But in honesty, he can't make this move, so I'm not sure he should be allowed to. Anyway, that attack happened. He broke on the wheel after trying to pursue, and I think that's a reasonable result. And here we have a successful one of those wheels, and what that would look like afterwards. Again, I'm not sure that's how the rules should actually be played. But, you know, overall, losing a unit, whereas the Ptolemaic line is not entirely holding, but he can go back and try to rally these couple units instead of, well, we'll see how that works. You know, it's the same odds, right? So 5 leader, the other guy was. So he only has so much of a chance. But we're definitely beginning to see a little bit of bloodshed happening here. Now, once these have connected, as they have, not much happens. It's really tough to make the decision in most of the battles to actually attack. Now on this one, because your commands are limited, and this guy can only command the Seleucid phalanx, and this guy can only command the Ptolemaic phalanx, I think we'll see a little bit more fighting than we do in most of the scenarios that I've seen so far. Most of them, when you have forces that come into clash like that, they just stop and they kind of sit there all game and don't really inflict anything on each other, which I found kind of disturbing about SPQR. I'm not sure if it applies to any of the other games in the series. It certainly doesn't in Samurai, and it doesn't, I think, in this scenario, because you have specific commands. All right, onward. Well, we had the Ptolemaic infantry made a counterattack, mainly against the light Arabs, and the Arabs actually held pretty well. See one unit routing back. One unit rallied, but they lost a couple of units to the rallying procedure. Most of the line didn't attack. And it's kind of breaking up down here, which looks pretty good in terms of what the Seleucids are forming up against there. I wasn't expecting those Arabs to hold that well. They're fairly low quality troops, but the phalanxes had to take missile fire. And then there wasn't a tactical quality check because they were already close enough. One thing I did notice, though, I started misplaying the rules. I've been working from highest leader initiative to lowest, and I'll continue that for this turn. I'll switch back later. It gives an interesting flavor to the game because one of the things it takes away the entire opportunity for trumping. I mean, there's no point to trump. You don't trump with your lower initiative leaders. And that's where it started to trouble me, so I bothered looking up the rules. Didn't really read the rules before I started this. I've been away from them for a while. Anyway, it's definitely not the way to play the game, but I don't know how much effect it had. You know, quality is the important thing in this game. Although leadership is important, there's no question there. Order of the actions is less so, I think. Anyway, we'll continue onward. Well, it's tough to come back to a game with it, you know, thinking you kind of know the rules, but you don't really. I've been screwing up left and right, and you know, we pointed out some before. Forgot all about the shock superiority chart. These phalanxes units should have brushed away those lights without a problem. Not absolutely without. I mean, this guy still would have routed. The damage still would have happened, but these lights would have taken double damage. Likewise up here, the lights against heavies. I can't go back and fix it. We're just going to say those Seleucids were inspired briefly. Anyway, well, we've got a little bit of movement with the light cav moving up. The Gauls, or whatever they really are, came in and drove away some of the elephants. But these Greek mercenaries have come and kind of broken the line there and are turning it here. So actually, yeah, the Seleucids seem to be making some good grounds here, even though they can't get that cav and elephant combination to go correctly. And there, I don't think I've cheated too much. I think in the turn of contact, though, which was kind of important, I forgot to give the Indian elephants their benefit against the African elephants. We won't make that mistake if the Africans hit here. So we may actually see kind of an opposite of what actually happened. You know, things get screwed up. It's still an interesting battle. There's no question there. And I don't mind screwing things up. Hey, the recent poll over on the Geek, what percentage of your war games do you play correctly? And I answered 20. And that may be correct. I play some lighter ones, and then something like this I might get right after 3 or 4 scenarios in a row. But coming back to it, I couldn't remember half the stuff. But I just can't. I can't be bothered to reread the rules of something I should know. Anyway, it's an interesting situation so far. We'll see how the turn continues. So the Seleucid center is holding up, and especially sort of this flank over here, better than expected, in part perhaps because of my cheating. But I've stopped doing that, and I'm still seeing them able to march forward, hit key locations with the javelins, weaken the phalanx, even this good phalanx here, and send it flying. Now, of course, it was weakened already. Same thing with the heavy infantry. See the elephant line under Ptolemy coming forward still. He's still not willing to engage. He's going to try to pull it around, scare these cav away, and smack into the flank of the elephants that are sitting there. He doesn't see any reason to go toe-to-toe when those aren't going anywhere. But overall, he's losing over here, and then we've got some massive breakthroughs here with the silver shields pushing through, and not a lot standing in their way. So it's I would say it's looking like a Seleucid victory already. So we're at the end of the turn. The Ptolemaics took some pretty heavy losses. A couple of phalanxes there, 51 points, brings them up to 60 towards their route value. I realize that's only 140 they got to reach, so they're actually close. The Seleucids only took 18, which puts them up to 28 total, and they need 175. Clearly, some of the effects are those light troops being too potent at one point. But, you know, even playing with them not potent, they're still not completely useless. And let's see what they've done and how misusing the rules can affect things. First of all, these are the heavies that broke through here, so they're not an effect of this. And we see this huge force of Ptolemaics routing. Here, it was lights, but they were, and hitting the heavies, they would have taken a little bit more damage, I think, in the early stage. I did compensate later. This breakthrough here, phalanx versus phalanx, that was actually, I think, a Ptolemaic mistake of not charging forward early enough. It still probably would have happened. You know, there's just so much there, but I allowed the first strike for the Seleucids, which wasn't, I think, a brilliant move. But we do see them breaking through here. Here, the Arabs defeating them, man, that had to be you know. But they were able to get the flank attacks in, which definitely would have removed that stipulation of the arms advantage. And over here, not flipping units over is a problem. Get some engagement still here and along here between one of these medium Thracians for clearing up some skirmishers out of the way. The elephants, the Ptolemaic elephants, still haven't hit yet. The calves in reserve. It's almost like they're not starting the battle over here, but they're losing it over here completely. I don't know how much of a chance Ptolemy has in this one. Historically, they won. I mean, not in the scenario as a whole, but in my particular playing of it. Just it feels like not only did I make some rules errors in their favor, but I also, I don't think played them as well as I could have. Oh, another leader. You clearly see here, though, the counter mix is just not sufficient. We've seen this in some of the other scenarios. The informational counters, there just aren't enough, and I think another sheet of them would have made things a little closer. I'm using counters that have been kind of decommissioned, as well as ones from Alexander to try to fill this out, and it's still not going to be enough. I may end up having to dig through and see one of my other great battles of history, see if I've got counters that I can throw into this, and maybe just make a pool of, you know, the common, more modern counters to use. It's not like I sell my games anyway. Had this issue with a lot of games, right? You know, the informational counters just aren't enough. But if you own more of the series, you can pillage. All right, well, looks to me like the Ptolemaics are really in deep trouble here, though.